Hmm. Hmm. Well, here we are. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tundra Fight School. My name is Tundra. This is my game. Today we're talking about fingers, physics, fingers, beefy physics fingers. I've been trying to make the fingers stronger, strong enough to support the character's weight, so they can be used to pick him up without magical grabs or physics joints picking him up, but instead just friction from the fingers themselves closing around objects. So that's where we're at. That's what we're trying to do. I've got some things around so I can kind of show it off. So far, it's working pretty good. So I've got the character body's right around 100 kilograms. I think it's like 98 or 99 kilograms. So pretty heavy. And the fingers are strong enough to pick up the character body without failing. I boosted the arms are stronger now too, just so I can do these, just so I can show this off. So yeah, they're cranked up also. Superman arms. But the fingers are strong enough to pick up, to hold the body with just one hand. The fingers are strong enough where I can just like two finger this. The fingers are strong enough for me to one finger this. In fact, the fingers are even strong enough for me to one finger, one hand this. But that's about the limit. There we go. So near the end of the video, I'll talk about how I got the fingers a little bit stronger than they were in their current state. They're just nice and strong. And until then, I'll just kind of like move around and climb stuff and see how that goes. So I do still have the feet running. They are still terrible. But they do work, and it's neat to see like some outside the box stuff in action. I don't know. I dig it. I think it's just really cool. Yeah, let's see if I can climb with feet. Almost. That's a big gap. Climb, damn it. There we go. Whee. All right, I guess I'm supposed to be talking about fingers, not like some weird foot climbing. Anyway, with my goofy puppet feet. All right, so as you can see, like this is working. This is working pretty good. I did make some. Just turn the camera off. I did make some monkey bars. I've been wanting to have some monkey bars for a while. So here, let me turn these. Turn them on. They don't turn on. They're monkey bars. Let me climb these and see how it goes. So there is some skill to this. It helps helps to get good at the climbing. It's all about like loading and unloading the hands. It's not as intuitive as I would like because there is a pretty big disparity between like where the game hand is, the loaded game hand, and the real world hand are very far apart from each other in some instances. So I think I need to make it so that when you're climbing, the distances don't need to be quite as far as all that. While while keeping the character about the same strength level as normal. So yeah, we'll figure out how to do that. Maybe there'll be a climbing mode, or maybe there'll be climbing gloves, or I don't know. Maybe I'll just adjust the distances. We'll see. Anyway, we've got this. I don't know. This what would you call this? A monkey bar treadmill. So, and again, these are physics grabs. I'm not connecting to these in any way other than my fingers are literally just wrapping around it and hanging on. So there's no magic joint or anything going on here. So pretty cool. I mean, it's taken me years, I guess, to come up with a system that's this strong and reliable. So it's pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. All right. Over here, I've got some rings. These are I just use these to test. Well, to test there's a concept, right? The character is kind of always upright. So as much as there is like good physics that seems realistic and stuff, one of the things that's not realistic is this magical self-righting torque that always keeps the character body vertical. And that torque can be kind of like misused, or if I'm applying force in a particular way and the self-righting torque is preventing me from tilting or whatever, then that can like turn into like motion in ways that is like undesired. And so like one of the things that I found was like if I pick myself up in a ring like this and then I push the ring out to the side, it would make the character like go swinging wildly because of that self-righting torque, combined with like the push and the gravity, would just create a bunch of motion that you don't want. Like there shouldn't be motion like that if your center of mass isn't really moving. Then like what's causing, where is that force coming from that's causing you to swing like that? And so I had to come up with some kind of solution. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's certainly better than it was before. And that solution is basically just if I push out in a way that causes a lot of torque, self-righting torque, then there's a corresponding like locomotion that goes along with that to push the body in a particular direction to counteract that torque. And at the end of it, it essentially makes it so that instead of like swinging wildly when I do this, I pretty much just stay in the same place and nothing happens, which is how it should be. On the other hand, if I have two of these rings and I like put more force on one than the other one, then we do start swinging wildly as expected, which is kind of cool. Whee! So this still works. All right, so that's pretty much it. I was just going to climb some stuff and then talk about how and why the fingers are stronger. And basically a lot of it's the same stuff that I've been doing for a long time, and that is a good physics rate. It is appropriate masses and inertia tensors, which may need to be boosted depending on what the disparity is between like the forces that you're working with versus the size of the rigid bodies, the masses of the rigid bodies, or inertia tensors, as the case may be. So yeah, if your joints are failing, boost the physics rate. If you can't boost the physics rate because it's already as high as you can afford it, then you can boost the masses or the inertia tensors. You can also use the temporal solver. The temporal solver is converges much more quickly than the projected solver. So this is all temporal solver. I've been using temporal solver for a long time. It's a little more finicky in some ways, but it's like much more powerful. Like it's just makes like much stronger joints. Other than that, I do have a couple of things that seem a little bit that are a little new. For example, you can see I've got some little debug spheres here to show an extra little thing that's happening with these joints, and that is that there's a linear, in addition to the rotational joint that moves the fingers, where they ought to be to match a given hand pose. There's also, I call it a joint for crimping. I essentially want to be able to move the fingers to a position and then like lock them in that position and make them really, really strong. And so that's what the extra joint does. I'm essentially using a linear limit between like the hand and the next finger up, which is and the anchor of which is offset like by this like wide like 90-degree offset distance here. And so that linear limit is pulling this anchor, this finger anchor, to this hand anchor and trying to close the distance between those two. And even though it's a linear limit, the way that it's offset allows it to create a rotational force. Even though it's a linear limit, it still ends up generating torque. And that torque is nice and strong and stable. It's also, because it's a linear limit and not like a regular powered joint, like a slurp joint or something like that. Because it's a linear limit, it's like one direction. So I end up having the finger being very, very powerful against being like unwound, but you could still push it and wind it further, where that wouldn't be the case if you used like a target rotation and a huge spring value to try to set a joint into a position. It would essentially like be locked there, and you wouldn't be able to push it in both directions or whatever. Anyway, at the end of the day, I think that helps with vibrations, to keep vibrations down, because you don't have it like overshooting and then bouncing back and forth as it tries to lock into a position and overshoots. And then also another little thing about this that may help or might not be that big of a deal. In my testing, it seemed to help that the way that I've got the anchors set up, they swing, and at the end of the swing, they're running perpendicular to the forces which are trying to force the fingers open. So if I'm gripping something and my fingers are trying to be stretched open this way, and the force is essentially like vertical, as these fingers close, as that crimp joint, as that linear limit crimp joint closes down and gets near the end, it's closing perpendicular to the direction of the force. And in my head, that makes me think that it's less likely to vibrate up and down, because the linear limit's not being adjusted in the direction of the force. The linear limit's being adjusted in a direction perpendicular to the force. So I could be wrong, but in my testing, it seemed to have less issues with like vibrations and whatnot, which are evil and are the enemy. Yeah, so basically that's kind of it in a nutshell, what's new about what I've got going on here. And I also have some secret sauce for you in this video. For quite some time, I've been running no extra rigid body for the last digit, for the distal phalanx. Basically, the last two bones of the finger are the same rigid body, and just the collider gets adjusted. which makes it essentially crazy powerful, and allows you to use a bigger mass for that combination of two bones. Um, and so you don't have to have like two itty bitty teeny tiny little rigid bodies. You have one rigid body, which is like twice as big, which is more powerful. And then again, the final joint also like infinitely powerful, essentially because it doesn't actually have a joint there. It's just colliders being moved. So I decided to do that because the movement of this last digit is actually pretty small, even like in a strong grip. Um, it's not really all that much. It's like not even 90 degrees really, and it um, it doesn't really seem to matter. Like I've been running it this way for a long time, and I've never been like, oh no, the fingers don't work right because there's not an extra rigid body on the ends. And so it's just a good way to strengthen the whole hand because you're using less rigid bodies and bigger rigid bodies. So hope that helps. I don't know how many people out there are working on their own fingers and stuff, but maybe this helps as far as like general joint concepts and stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. Um, you guys be safe. It's a crazy place out there right now. The world is full of division and hate, and it's just not okay. So try to be nice to people. Try to do the right thing. Try to be the good guys. Take care. Bye.